Well, heidi-ho, people. Welcome again to another weekly episode of Ask an Atheist. We are a weekly educational live call-in program. Yes, that means you can call us and talk to us live on the air, if you feel so inclined. Our show is dedicated to atheism, skeptical inquiry, and issues surrounding the separation of church and state. My name is Libbie Mistretta. My co-host this week is Keight Farr, also known as BionicDance on the YouTubes. And yeah, we're ready to roll with an awesome show. It's going to be great.
Oh yeah, and we've got a couple of really extra special announcements this week. It turns out that Ask an Atheist won all 4 of the awards it was nominated for on the SCAN Awards, including, this one's awesome, Favorite Religious, Spiritual, or Faith Program.
We're so happy about that. Thank you to all of our thousands or whatever of fans. I don't know, how many fans do we have? Did we ever figure out how many subscribers we have? Is it like somewhere in the range of 50 billion? It is, right?
I'm sure. And speaking of which, thank you to any of my YouTube subscribers who voted as well.
Yeah, for reals. Thank you so much. It was really fun. We had a really good time at the awards ceremony. It was cool to be there with all the other people who work on different SCAN programs, and it was awesome. It was great. It was fun to win, and we had a good time doing it, and yay! Yay us!
Well,
okay.
Everyone does like to win.
Yes.
Also, if you're an atheist, agnostic, or free thought group in the state of Washington that would like to get mentioned on Ask an Atheist, please email us at www.askanatheist.tv.
Yes, indeed. Well, what do you say? Should we do some news stories?
Absolutely,
All right,
sure.
let's do them. Do you want to read yours first, or should I?
I'll go ahead.
Okay, yours is a good one. It makes me angry, and that's always good.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is kind of a weird and creepy story. It's appointment with death cards, shocking for the elderly. Religious extremists have been sending cards to elderly people, asking them to pick the date they're going to die. The cards ask recipients to predict the date and time of their death and advise them to get in touch with the evangelists to avoid going to hell. California-based Living Waters was founded by New Zealand evangelist Ray Comfort. We all know him. Spokeswoman Lisa Law said the cards were a way of making people aware of their mortality and to tell people about Jesus. So apparently what's happening is these people are being given these cards. It says, you know, like it says that you have an appointment with the date and time of your death.
Oh my God.
It's one of the weirdest things I've ever heard.
I thought they couldn't top the crocoduck, but Ray Comfort always manages somehow to overreach himself in terms of tasteless goofery.
I mean, goodness knows these religious people like to say, you know, oh, well, you have to prepare yourself, you have to make sure you're, wash clean of sin before you die. But sending them a card with the date and time of their death on it is just a little bit creepy. Obviously, a lot of people are not going to be okay with that.
It's a bit ghoulish, and honestly, it's kind of mean. I mean, they're targeting elderly people. First of all, who says only old people die? Seriously. And also, I imagine if somebody sent something like this to my grandma or somebody, I'd be pretty ticked off. So
it's true. I think the only way they could make this worse is if it came with like a banana attached.
The atheist's nightmare. If you aren't familiar with why Ray Comfort should be associated with bananas forever in your mind, please do Google Ray Comfort banana, or alternately, the atheist's nightmare. You will not regret it. Anyway, yeah, thank you, Ray Comfort, for once again proving that you are a classy gentleman with an excellent mustache. All right, I have an interesting, very interesting news story as well. Man dressed as Jesus kicked out of church. And the little sub-headline here, I just have to read it because it's so awkwardly phrased. This is second time only he's been kicked out of church. Okay, so here we go. A man dressed as Jesus was kicked out of a St. Louis area church on Sunday. Police were even called to get in the middle of a spiritual showdown. We're called to be ambassadors for Jesus Christ. Ambassadors should represent, and that's what I do. I try to represent my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, said Neil Thompson Monday night, wearing the same white robe and cross and carrying the same staff he's been using every Sunday for 22 years. He dresses like Jesus every week, basically, goes around to a different church each week, hangs out with the people in the church. And, you know, this is his way of getting involved with his religious community, so great. But anyway, apparently he went to this one particular church in St. Louis. Let's see if St. Paul's Lutheran Church in Des Perez. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Anyway, he was told he couldn't come in. The deacon confronted him and asked whether he was a Christian. Mr. Thompson said he was indeed a Christian, and he was told he had to sit in the hallway anyway, and he couldn't go in and worship with the rest of the flock. Then, for some reason, I'm not really sure who called the cops, but somebody involved got ticked off and called the police. They came in, told everyone to chill, and went on their merry way. Apparently no arrests were made. And then I love this line, "Oh, I forgive them, said Thompson." Said this apparently while he was dressed as Jesus, which I think is really kind of fun. This is only the second time he's been kicked out of church in all of his 22 years of evangelizing in this way, and says he'll try to go back to St. Paul's Lutheran again someday, but the police told him he should probably try to set up an appointment first with the pastor.
I have to say, this is one of the most bizarre cases of cosplay I've ever heard. I mean, granted, there are some people who dress up as some really odd things, but come on, Jesus, for, what was it, 22 years?
22 years, he's dedicated to his character. But I mean, really, I have to hand it to this guy. He's having fun with his religion, and he's having a good time doing what he sees as the right thing, going out and spreading the word of Jesus. And I think it's really unfortunate that this guy had to take it so damn seriously and not let him into his church, because he's probably a nice dude. He's been doing it for 22 years, and he's only ever, had cops involved once before. I'm guessing he's probably not a rabble-rouser.
And I mean, I love the novelty of Jesus getting kicked out of church. It's Jesus in a church. I could imagine someone, dressed as, say, like Richard Dawkins getting kicked out of church. But Jesus? Really?
That's kind of a good idea. We should try that sometime. Cosplaying as Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens.
That would be pretty rad.
Okay, well, should we launch into our subject, or do you have more news articles to read? I don't know.
I don't really have any more news, but we should mention that if anyone wants to call in, we do have a phone number for that. The number is 206-421-5658. We're happy to take your call on air, and we will talk to you and answer any questions you might have. Preferably no abusive callers, but we will talk to pretty much anybody. So, if you do actually have a question or support or anything, just go ahead and call in.
Yeah, and you don't have to call us about the topic for the day. If you want to talk about something else, we're happy to discuss that with you also. But we do have a topic today, one we're actually pretty excited about.
Yeah, well, it's going to be rather interesting.
It will be interesting. Our topic today is religion's obsession with virginity.
And boy, are they obsessed with that.
Oh my goodness, for realsies. We should also point out, too, that it really seems to be mainly an obsession with female virginity. No one really seems to care all that much whether guys are having sex before marriage or keeping themselves pure.
I mean, there are those like high school purity pacts that they make, and apparently guys take those too, but for the most part, it really is female virginity that they care about. Presumably because that's the only virginity they can prove. Right.
Or think they can prove, exactly. So, do we just get it? Are we having sound problems and I don't know about it? Okay,
apparently,
whatever.
But
anywho, pardon that. We had to reach under the table for a moment and grunt. It happens on occasion.
It does. It really does.
Speaking of virginity. Okay, this is going into realms of public access that we were never intended to go. Let's protect our awards.
Indeed, indeed. They'll be taken away from us.
Ooh. So, to put this in a little bit of a historical perspective, why are so many religious groups, and we're mainly discussing the Abrahamic religions here today because we're most familiar with them, so Christianity especially, Judaism and Islam, why are they so hung up on the issue of female purity, fidelity, virginity, whatever you want to call it? Why is this such an issue?
Well, I'm sure a lot of it has to do with the whole idea of going to heaven, being pure, and all of that. But since, generally speaking, losing your virginity is not, the prelude to death, I'm not really sure.
I hope not.
It would be a bad thing. But I'm sure a lot of it also has to do with Eve and original sin and all of that. So.
I'm thinking there's probably some kind of origin in the idea of women being temptresses and will lead you astray, and they cannot be free to express themselves sexually because it's evil and snakes and apples will be involved, and I don't know. I think also probably the reason why it found its way into so many of the historical religious texts, especially in areas of the text where they talk about social laws, in parts of the Bible where laws are discussed, and there are several places in the Bible where various rules are discussed. Readers or adherents to biblical traditions, shall we say, are admonished several times not to commit adultery, not to lust, not to be sexually active with anybody other than your spouse in marriage. And I'm thinking probably that's most likely because these were written in the days before paternity tests. We didn't have the ability back then to tell whether a woman's child was actually fathered by her husband or by somebody else. And so by making sure that there were very strict social taboos about women not having sex with anybody until they were married to their husband, and then making sure they only had sex with that one man, that was the way that men could ensure that their actual children were inheriting their property. And it just kind of became embedded in the general culture.
So ultimately, the obsession with virginity really is about control, like so many other things with religion.
Exactly.
And, controlling women is very important to a large segment of the population at large, never mind just, religious people. But the religious obsession with controlling women and with portraying women as vile temptresses is definitely, it's part of it. It's part of the zeitgeist.
Yeah. I'm not really sure why that is either. I guess I've never really bothered to research reasons as to why we are so obsessed in our world with controlling women. I suspect it may have something to do, especially in terms of religion promoting the control of women. It probably has something to do with the fact that women are the ones who typically raise children for the longest amount of time and have the greatest influence over kids when they're at a very young age. And if you have a woman kind of brainwashed to go along with whatever your religious beliefs are, she's going to pass that down to all of her offspring. That's probably something to do with it, although I don't know. I'm not any kind of a sociologist or whatever.
Well, I have to admit a lot of it is a mystery to me as well. I'm sure if you're raised religious, which I was not, I suppose it's second nature. I hesitate to say intuitive, but I'm sure it makes sense if you are indeed part of that culture. Not to say that it makes sense as anything other than a subjective thing, a kind of personal judgment, but I'm sure they understand it, they grok it better.
Yeah.
So
nice use of grok.
Oh, well.
I like that. So we've kind of figured out, or at least speculated upon, why it mattered in more ancient societies. Why does virginity continue to matter in modern society? Why are we so hung up on it?
It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And to make matters even worse, there are so many disputes about the definition of virginity.
Right.
What
are we even talking about when we say virginity or purity or...
Exactly. There are a lot of people out there right now who think that certain kinds of sex are not, virginity breakers.
Not real sex.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's like, but you had sex. You gave somebody an orgasm. Is it not?
Or you tried.
Well, sure. But
right. I think you tried.
Does that not take someone's virginity? Or how about, homosexuals?
Right, exactly. What about homosexual couples?
Will flat out state that a lesbian is a virgin her whole life if she never has sex with a man, if they never do the missionary style, let's be clinical, penis and vagina, that apparently is the only way to lose virginity for some people. For other people, clearly not. And okay, yeah, I suppose there's a medical definition, but there's also all these social definitions.
Yeah, and the social definitions really, you start to get into so many strange gray areas, particularly when you talk to young people about their feelings about sexuality before marriage. Is it okay to have sex? What is sex? What do you expect from your sex life, etc.? It starts to get frankly weird and out there. People have some strange, puritanical, messed up ideas about sex and what is or isn't sex. And it seems to be largely tied to how religious these people are, like how strange and skewed their approach to sex can be.
Well, it does seem to be almost entirely religion-based, whether or not they're making these pledges to stay a virgin until their wedding night, which honestly, we'll get to that in a bit, but why would anyone want to marry a virgin, frankly? I would want someone who knows what they're doing.